Bill, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much.
Wonderful, Bill. So nice to have you. And I'm really glad that we're having the opportunity to chat. I know you and I always have a lot of fun when we have our discussions. But for our viewers that may not be as familiar with you, uh, would you please take a minute or two and talk about your background and tell everyone who you are?
Yeah, sure, for sure. So my name is Bill Doyle. I'm a vice president at SAP, and I'm part of the customer competitive and market insights function at SAP. I've been with SAP around 10 years. Most of my background is in marketing, competitive insights, and consulting, actually. So in the role today that I have global responsibility for some pretty significant customer insights initiatives and customer journey type of activities within the business.
That's great, Bill. Thank you for introducing yourself. Um, in your current role, Bill, what does your leadership or what does your management expect from you, and what are they relying on you for?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So in the role I have at SAP, our organization, our Customer Competitive Market Insights organization, sits within our corporate strategy team, which then rolls up to the office of CEO. So in terms of our deliverables to the business, it's all about providing the best possible insights across the dimensions that I talked about, customer competitive and market insights. The expectations are we will get questions at the highest levels, at board level, questions around key business questions. What are competitive trends in EMEA North or another region? We'll get questions more at a marketing level around, well, which accounts should I target for marketing? We'll get questions from sales around which companies are most ripe for a follow-up conversation. So truly, the initiative that I'm driving in the business called Crystal Ball is really a customer insights and digital listening engine. And it's been deployed across all stakeholders in the business with the objective of driving the best possible customer experience for our customers, because we understand more about them before we reach out to them. We know what their needs are. And at the same time, this initiative is responsible for, armed with that information, driving better business results for SAP as well.
That's great, Bill. So let me ask you this, because I know you have a rich background in insights, in journeys, and in marketing as well. Typically, when you are focusing on helping your internal teams and your internal stakeholders improve the customer experience, or when you're helping them better understand their customers, what are some of the challenges that you are typically faced with?
Yeah, so I would go into that in a couple different ways. So our Crystal Ball initiative at SAP was really started in 2018, and it really was designed around a couple key aspects of the challenges that we had at SAP and how to mitigate those within the business. So if you rewind a couple years, some of the challenges in the business where we had COVID, right? And so there was a whole shift from a face-to-face environment to a more digital environment, a more remote environment. So the question became how do we be relevant to our customers? How do we get the best insights to our teams in this kind of environment? So actually our sales teams needed to operate much more from a remote standpoint, and they needed to consume more information digitally that they could then use with customers. So that was kind of the first area. Then the second kind of driving force and challenge was around what's called GDPR, which are some very unique regulations and privacy regulations in the B2B software industry, and it has to do with how you can talk to people, how you can engage with them, and so forth. And so we need to be mindful of how do we engage with customers in new digital ways moving forward. And then just this whole idea of a digital buying journey, right? When we look at our customers and prospects, so much more is being engaged by them digitally. So we needed also to meet kind of that need at SAP and develop this engine called Crystal Ball that helps our teams understand the digital buying journeys, the digital customer journeys, if you will, of our customers, and then be able to kind of determine next steps and what to do next after understanding how our customers are interacting with us at different touch points in the buyer's journey.
I love the name Crystal Ball. I think that by itself has so many direct and crisp marketing messages built in just in those two words.
Yeah, what I would say there, Crystal Ball, it was you're absolutely right. And Crystal Ball, the idea behind that is, we are a digital account listening engine, and our idea is to really provide almost digital empathy as a service to our customers. So we're really understanding our customers and helping push that to our marketing or sales team so they know like the best next step actions to take, and actions that are based on solving customers' business pains and needs, rather than just trying to force fit, a hammer in a square or something. It's more around we understand what's going on at customers, and then we're able to have better conversations with them moving forward. And Crystal Ball was also important from an internal branding standpoint because to your point, it's a phrase that it implies certain things. It implies being able to be predictive, and that's exactly what Crystal Ball is all about. Is we are understanding using artificial intelligence, machine learning. We're putting that together with all the massive data graph we have at SAP to really understand like how to predict what's going to happen at a customer next and what are the next things on the horizon that we should talk to our customers about. So that's really what Crystal Ball embodies.
So that's great, Bill. What I'm hearing you say is this is almost an initiative to convert insight into foresight.
Absolutely. Insight into foresight. And Crystal Ball is about insight into foresight, and it's also about insight into action. So, as I mentioned earlier, our stakeholders are far and wide in the company. I mean, we range from the board level questions down through customer success, further along in the marketing journey, which is, hey, we've sold something to a customer. Now, how do we keep that customer, satisfied from a customer success standpoint? And we provide insights to the business across all those different dimensions.
That's great. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that is something we guide our clients as well. In anytime we are helping them better understand or evaluate their customer's journey.
Yeah.
Something that we recommend to a lot of our clients is as customers engage with you, you may think that they are part of your journey, but actually you as a provider are part of the customer's journey. And in every stage of their engagement with you, there are certain key moments we call moments of truth that are happening with your customers. And if you are focused on those key moments, then you have the power to convert them or elevate those moments into what we call peak moments, which is also, I think, what you were touching upon in terms of giving insights to your internal teams at those key stages on what needs to be done. That is also the genesis of a lot of the work that we do for our clients, because I mean, with any type of customer size, right? in their journey stages, when they're engaging, yes, there are hundreds of things that you can do to improve their experience. But
Hmm.
then there are also just these key moments that if you did nothing else, but you just focused on these key moments, then you have that experience sort of optimized for that particular stage. And 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 understanding that is so key, and I'm so glad that you also doing it through this crystal ball initiative, because these moments of truth, Bill, as you and I know, also, if they are not tackled or addressed correctly, then they also can morph into what we call pit moments. And those are the moments where the customer's experience with you just tanks.
Hmm.
And if that happens, what I like to always guide clients is, the customer will keep moving from one journey stage to another. But if all they're getting are these pit moments with you, well, guess
Hmm.
what? Then they are moving into the next stage holding someone else's hand, and
Right.
they're not moving in your favor.
And what I like about what you described there was in the customer journey and the framework and the mapping and those moments in time, like you're saying. I mean, that I really see a kind of a almost a beautiful convergence between what Crystal Ball is all about and the things you articulated. And the example I would give is our Crystal Ball engine, our platform for the business. By the way, it's purpose built by SAP for SAP. We render these insights on a mobile app for all of our sales stakeholders, so it's really cool. They can get account insights right on their mobile phone. We also render these account insights on a desktop platform as well, and we also render the insights in the form of email notifications. So truly, we are able to deliver account insights, on in a different modalities and on the times that sellers or marketers would want them. Now, getting back to your points around the peaks and valleys and so forth, that's partly what Crystal Ball helps to identify as well. We're identifying at the different parts of the buyer's journey. So is it more top of funnel awareness and what's of interest there? But then we're also looking at, mid funnel and bottom funnel through to sale and closure. And we're monitoring what customers are interested in and what they're really showing potential purchase insights too. So there's that angle that certainly it leads to a better experience if our teams know that a company has been really interested in, let's say, an HR solution. If you're going to talk to them about a customer experience solution, but they've really been telling the market they're interested in HR, it probably makes sense to go and talk to them about HR, to
Yeah.
start. And that's where it meshes back with the customer journey mapping and experiences. We can really tell like where our insights, where they might fall in there, and it would help to better both predict the peaks and the valleys that you're talking about, and then also show what's happening, real time at these companies. So that's where I think the power is between the customer journey mapping that you talked about and our platform, Crystal Ball.
That's fantastic. And I'm really glad that you're sort of helping your internal teams really get get those insights. It's almost like an insights activation platform, in a way. Something that we recommend to a lot of our clients also when they are really focused on better understanding their customers, and when they're leveraging initiatives like the crystal ball or like the journey work also
Mhm.
is um, also to design and focus on improvements and initiatives like journey work from a certain financial or a business impact standpoint. Now,
Mhm.
this is something I talk about a lot as well. Is you may have encountered this or you may not have, Bill, but a lot of guests that come on the show sometimes talk about how they have to justify the spend or
Yeah.
justify ROI on a certain
Yeah.
research initiative.
Right.
And so our guidance to our clients is, look, if you're embarking on anything, any kind of project like this, right, then focus on the financial or the business impact that you're deciding. In fact, think of it almost like a tiered approach. You start with a business impact. So, okay, with an initiative like Crystal Ball, for example, we want to empower our teams get the right insight that they need at that particular stage, when they're engaging with a customer, right? Well, then what's the advantage of that to them? Well, if they get it at this stage, it helps improve the customer's experience. Or if a sales team is closing in on an account or they're in the prospecting stages, it helps them narrow down on the key messaging on or the level of engagement they need to provide to that particular prospect, right? Okay, great. Well, what is the advantage of that business impact? And convert that advantage into a financial impact number, right? So
For
if we
sure.
do this, well, we bring in a new account, well, that's X amount of dollars. If we make an improvement in the customer's experience, it impacts the churn rate, and we're able to reduce the churn rate by a quarter percentage point or 1 point or 2 points, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you do that, what does that mean?
Right.
If you're able to get quarter point improvements across the board, and your end sum overall in your NPS is a 2% or a 5 point or a 10 point increase, well, what does that mean? Now the customer is spending more with you, they're loyal, they're staying more with you. And so what does that mean in revenue dollars, right? And so what I'm talking about is designing initiatives like this for that certain impact, because what that does is, if you're doing it for a certain financial impact, then no longer do you have to justify spending on initiatives like this.
Right.
But at the same time, it also helps internal teams focus on, okay, this is why I'm getting this insight, or this is the purpose of this. Because if it's not helping the sales team close more or prospect better or improve the experience, then some tinkering needs to be done. But anyways, that's sort of the spearhead or the lens we advise clients on.
So I couldn't agree with you more, because so our Crystal Ball initiative is an amalgamation of a lot of different internal and external data sources, whether it's intent data, third-party intent data, whether it's install base data, whether it's financial indicator data, whether it's growth insights and data. We're taking all that data. That's all third-party data. Then we're bringing in a bunch of first-party data from SAP, like our SAP.com website visits and so forth. And we're painting a broad and elegant picture of all the interactions, that an account has had at SAP. So we really have an understanding by solution area at SAP and a very broad understanding of that. But to that point, to have that kind of Crystal Ball platform available for the teams, there is a cost associated with that, right? So from the standpoint of measuring results and impact, at least for us more broadly around Crystal Ball, is we basically measure ourselves or scorecard around like four different areas. And the first area that we scorecard and measure impact is around our reach and scale, like from a data standpoint. So we want to see how many accounts we're monitoring over time. Does it include companies outside our CRM? How much data are we ingesting? How many buying signals are we collecting on a weekly basis? And that's important just to kind of maybe justify the investment a little bit, to show the breadth and depth of our service offering. The second area we have is what I would say is user engagement. So if you remember, I spoke about how we have a mobile app and we have a desktop platform. So we measure within the company who's using Crystal Ball, how many people are using it geographically, what regions are using it the most, and so forth. How is it getting integrated into some of our other systems or platforms that the teams work with? So that's another key engagement metric. And I can talk about the results of like that internal measurement in a minute, in addition to, some other business results. The third area we look at is ROI and conversion rates. So we look at the companies that we've identified as, the blinking green for something of that SAP can sell, or they're ones that are interested in what we can offer. We take those companies and we benchmark the results from those companies that we've said to marketing or sales, go focus on these companies. And we look at the results in terms of pipeline progression and revenue closure of that, really good set of companies versus all the other ones we may have out there as well. Because that helps us say, okay, by using the Crystal Ball predictive insights engine, you achieved a certain amount of uplift from a revenue or a revenue conversion standpoint. So that's like the third stove, if you will, in terms of our measurement system. And the final one is around the use cases and the scenarios that we enable in the business. And I touched upon that about we count them and we understand the breadth and depth of how Crystal Ball is being utilized. So our board members ask questions and we deliver things to the board, check. Our sales teams are using Crystal Ball, check. Our marketing teams are using Crystal Ball and they're using it for digital marketing. They're using it for nurture campaigns. They're using it across that customer journey, right? I mean, our marketers will literally map out that customer journey map. And, we will monitor and see where is Crystal Ball being used across that customer journey map too. So that's as well, that's like the fourth kind of area that we kind of scorecard, if you will, in terms of measuring the performance of Crystal Ball. And I can certainly talk about the business impact of what we had on SAP as well.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. That was my next question on, what has been the business impact of this?
So in that first area of how we monitor, which I really talked about data reach and scale and how do we hit the awareness components of the funnel, we typically see like 2 to 3x uplift on account engagement metrics. So whether it's click-through rates, whether it's email opens, whatever, we're seeing a 2 to 3x uplift there. Then when you go to our user engagement, what we do is we benchmark our platform and mobile app compared to all of the other prospecting tools and customer insights tools that are there at SAP. And we are the number one asset for purposes of use cases around enabling marketing and sales and helping them, win business moving forward. In terms of the ROI and conversion, what we look at is we and I did touch upon that a little bit, but we typically see, about a 3x uplift in terms of from pipeline to revenue conversion. So if teams are focused on the companies that we've identified compared to just doing something willy-nilly or all the pipeline that's out there, sales teams and marketers who focus on those companies who are really signaling interest see, about a 2 to 3x, really a 3x improvement in terms of revenue conversion from pipeline. So that's a pretty compelling metric. And then the final one around use cases, I think I may have touched upon, is just counting them. What's the breadth and depth of them within the business, and how many different new scenarios are we enabling across that customer journey? So from awareness through to customer success. Some of our newer things are around, you mentioned churn earlier, we're getting even more and more sophisticated in predicting churn and saying, we think, this customer is showing evidence or patterns that they might be looking elsewhere. So we need to follow up, with this customer. So those are like some of the metrics, the business metrics that we look at in terms of how we show our performance.
That's great, Bill. I'm really glad that this is giving you the results in terms of business impact that you had envisioned. I know we're almost at the end of our time, but I wanted to ask you one final question before we go. I know that this initiative is working really well and it's giving you the results that you had envisioned. If you had to go back in time and redo this, or reflecting on the challenges or the problems this is helping your team solve for, is there anything that you would do different or anything that you would improve on?
That's a good question. I think from the standpoint of you can always get better in terms of, I would say, let's say maybe cross-functional teaming. So when we started Crystal Ball, although Crystal Ball represents all different stakeholders in the business. So we were careful to have a cross-functional team that represented all different parts of the business as we built our Crystal Ball. But being cross-functional is like, you have to do that all the time. So likely what I would say is reinforce whatever function you're in the business, be cross-functional, because you're going to get better outcomes that way. So that's an important one. The other thing is that I would say is that don't get too far ahead of yourself in an initiative in the business. Like our mantra with Crystal Ball is crawl, walk, run. And what that means is we didn't wait to engineer something and implement something until it was perfect. We did things in stages, and if it met the requirements, we were pushing that out. So we were very nimble and dynamic. So I would say, always be nimble and dynamic in your approaches, because that's how you innovate and that's how you get things done more quickly. So we cycle more on Crystal Ball. We don't wait to design the perfect mousetrap. We build the one that'll work, and then we'll continue to improve it all over time. So I think those are a couple of the areas that I would say in terms of lessons learned, or things that you can do to innovate and have a rapid and positive results.
Thank you for sharing that, Bill. I think that is gold right there. And for our viewers, that is something I would like to underline as well. A lot of times we come across clients where there is a rush to get to market, or a rush to do the work. And something that we recommend is, the cross-functionality component is key, because there are multiple stakeholders involved. So for anyone out there that is planning an initiative like this, one experience shared that I would have, sort of building on what Bill just said, is typically, for example, when we do our journey projects, we never begin without doing sort of a workshop that is more internal for that client, where we'll invite different stakeholders from different departments to come in. And, we'll go in creating what we call a hypothesis journey map, which is a hypothesis of their customer's journey based on what they've shared with us. And then bring that map in and we put it on the board, or in virtual calls like this, we'll have it as a screen share. And we'll tell folks, look, this is how we think you view the customer's journey. Can you help us butcher this? That's really the guidance we give them. And what's remarkable, Bill, is at that stage, it's something fascinating to watch, where you will have different stakeholders from different teams, different departments get up, and they'll talk about the same stage of the customer's journey. Let's say it's the engagement stage, or it's the prospecting stage, or it's some key deliverable stage, right? it never ceases to amaze me how somebody within the same company will say something, and then somebody else will get up and say, "Oh, I never knew you guys looked at it like that. We were always looking at it from this viewpoint," right? And
Yes.
they both are never wrong.
Right.
It's just fascinating to see how that same customer stage gets viewed differently when it's viewed by the lens of a different department. And at that stage, we are just taking notes, because what
Yeah.
it is identifying to us is this is a gap right here, right? Where this is a gap that needs to be verified or filled in. So I wanted to share that as an experience for our viewers as well, because I think that's the gold in the cross functionality aspect that you built in, or that you were referring to earlier. Because had you just designed this for one team, one department, then you would have missed out on this cross functionality aspect.
Yeah, and if I maybe quickly revisit your question around lessons learned. So a couple things. First, you're spot on in terms of like a workshop. We call it design thinking. At SAP, it's similar. It's exactly what it's a fancy way of saying just exactly what you just said. You design thinking. We've done numerous sessions on that, and at the inception of Crystal Ball through, let's say every 6 months, and you get like the people in the room cross-functional. You throw stuff on the whiteboard. You have post-it notes, and you iterate, and then you design on what does this look like? What are the insights 3 months, 6 months, out, and we put that into a roadmap and a plan moving forward. So totally consistent with what you just said. We leverage we have a SAP App House, what it's called, and those are our our UI, our UX, UI people who come in and are creative around. So how do we actually build this platform? How is it most like, what's the word I want to use? The best user experience, most ergonomic might be the wrong term, but just will people be satisfied? How is it simple for sales and marketing to consume all this data we have, right? So all that's consistent with what you said. And then I think the final maybe lesson learned or challenge, I know this might sound overused, but is change management, but also communications. So I don't care what, you have to have constantly and always have change management and communications in whatever you're doing, because you can't assume that people understand what you've done. And many companies, and SAP is one of them, we have new employees coming in, you have employees changing jobs, you have people, leaving for other companies. So in any big initiative, you have to constantly there always has to be a communications drumbeat, and change management is something you always have to do. So that's a lesson learned, but I think we did it fairly well, but it's something you can never abandon. That's my point, is it has to be part of your DNA and how you operate moving forward.
Perfect. I knew this would be a fun, engaging discussion, and there's a lot of gold in this that I think our viewers will benefit from. So thank you, Bill. I really appreciate you taking your time and coming on the show and sharing all these gold and diamond nuggets.
Well, thanks, and this has been a great experience for me, and I really appreciate the time, and look forward to future collaboration. So again, thanks so much.